let's add our electricity volumetric stuff. So let's go to, let's do a loader. $root, you can see it's pretty useful to have that. And later also, if you download this file, you can just swap out the $root and then everything will work as intended. So that's useful. 3D, let's first do the electricity. All right, so we have electricity here. And you can see that looks pretty cool. Looks very shiny. So yeah, we could already merge it in, or we can also just comp this if we want. So let's go to split EXR. Like, you could probably get away with just merging this as a beauty, but you might want some additional control, for example, for the to do stuff with the volume. But again, like, that's why I have the puzzle math thing here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to have here the beauty. I'm going to boolean, so channel boolean this one. And I'm going to grab the puzzle math. Where do I have it? So here we have the puzzle math. I'm going to mask it. So I'm going to put it in there. You can go to just put it by luminance. I'm going to play multiply by mask. And you can see I'm getting the original thing here, which, I mean, my emission is not needed now. And then I'm going to just merge that in. And again, like, it should probably be very similar to just having the emission, but I just got better results doing it like this. Oh, and then apply modes. Let's do screen. All right. So now we have this thing. And the cool thing now is that we have this control. For example, we could do a color corrector here. And we can say, right, we want, for example, let's say we want more brightness, with more contrast. Like, you have all this control here that you normally wouldn't really have. Or you could do a separate glow, for example, on just the electricity here. I could even tint that. For example, I could just do color corrector and just really say that, okay, I want this to be a little bit reddish. I'm not gonna do that right now, but just trying to get the point across why working like this is just preferable to just doing to only using a beauty render. I do like always to try to get as far as I can with my beauty render, but there's so much stuff that you can do in composite. I probably take it way too far even with the beauty often, but like I used to always try to do as much in compositing, but I noticed that like once I started prioritizing sort of also trying to get as far in 3D, that my 3D skills also just really got a lot better. Anyway, I'm kind of diverging from the topic. Let's just merge this in. So this is something where you would use a merge, because this is, like I mentioned, something we're going to put on top of something else. So we could merge it in here, put it like this, and you can see we don't really see anything. So we need to set the apply mode. You could put it to screen, for example, or to another one. You could step through it. I'd probably say that screen is probably a good one. I'd say screen is probably fine. So then let's just do it like that. We have the right thing switched in. Is this let's put it to the beauty render for now, because it's going to be faster. Right, but you can already see that looking pretty dope with the electricity like that. I'm gonna remove the correcting thing there. So let's also load in the smoke. You can see the motion blur is going pretty crazy on some of those things. Yeah, so let's just also load the smoke. You can already see this looks cool, and then we don't even have the depth of field. So let's just put a loader. And let's go to $root, our lovely $root render, 3D smoke. All right. Yeah, so this smoke, we don't necessarily have a lot of pulses for that, but what we're just gonna do is we're gonna just merge it in. Oh, you might notice in Fusion you kind of come to the side instead of top down, which is what you do in Nuke. So let's just merge it in. Let's put it to screen. Or maybe in this case, let's not do screen. Let's just find a nice one. Let's just do screen. Let's put a color correct maybe. Oh, if you hold shift, you can drag nodes in between these things. And you can see we can sort of, if you want, we can change, we can up the gamma. Let's maybe make it like a tiny bit blue. Could increase the gain. We could say that we want, we had it, want to put it not to light, and by the way, I want to put it to screen. Where are we? Yeah, that looks better. Already thought looked a little bit weird. Or you could put it, by the way, to normal, and then you could also just put it to burn in. That might also just be nice. But yeah, maybe screen. I don't know, normal would burn in. What do you guys think? Don't remember what I did with my original. Let's just do like, let's just do screen. We could always change it later. So let's just step through it a little bit, I guess. You know what? I'm gonna put it to normal. Make up your mind, Tim. What are you doing? All right. Yeah. So let's make it a little bit more bluish, so it more gets this tint from the environment. And stuff here with the electricity looks tiny bit weird. Let me just grab the loader from the electricity real quick. See what that's about. Yeah, so it doesn't have it in the original there. I think I'm gonna put a channel booleans here instead of a merge. I'm just gonna channel booleans these together and put it to add. All right. So yeah, I'm doing the channel booleans for the volume and the thing here. See, now we got rid of the. Let's do alpha, do nothing. All right. Yeah, it's probably better. And we could do a color correct, maybe down here. We could sort of change the gain on that stuff a little bit. Could tint it like this is fine, I think. But it already looks really dope with the smoke and everything, in my opinion. So some other stuff that we want to do. Of course, we don't have the depth of field yet. We are going to do the depth of field, but depth of field is going to make this like really slow. We don't necessarily want to do that yet. I want to do that in a little bit. So that's just, so maybe we want some control to sort of more split out the foreground and the background. So what we could do is let's grab our beauty here and let's go to format. So select it, go to format channels, and let's put our Z into our RGB. So then we get our Z depth here. And then maybe what I want to do is let's do maybe like a color corrector. Put it in the mask. And let's also put a color corrector on our Z itself. Let's do a brightness contrast, by the way, on our Z itself. We don't care for the color. So we can go on the brightness contrast here. And then we can crank the contrast, do something like that. And then what we could do is we put it in the mask here, and then we have some control. For example, let's go to settings and then channel luminance. So it's going to grab the luminance channel from our Z depth here. And then we could use this to, for example, make our background. It's a little bit too much, but a little bit darker, for example. You could also make it lighter, like it's sort of in the smoke, depending on the look that you're after, but we could take slightly tinted maybe. Don't wanna. You could also do it both, by the way. You could merge in the thing as well with just a screen. And then let's do a color corrector on it. You can see how quickly you can sort of make a cool image in compositing. Like, I'm not sure if you like, some people might not be super familiar with compositing. Some of you might be like, well, yeah, duh. But some people always try to do everything in 3D, which just is not necessarily the best. Because a lot of the look development, like you see here, can be done inside of 3D. So just try to push your 3D as far as you can. One thing, by the way, that I also want to show you before we continue the rest of the composite. I was talking about the noise reduction. So depending on your own render, like I don't know how much noise you have in your render, but because I mentioned that you can get rid of it. And of course, like my render here doesn't have that much noise. It has a little bit of noise. You can see if I, for example, I mean, there is definitely some noise. I mean, it doesn't look, with all the stuff on top, you don't necessarily see it that much, but if you really zoom in, you can see it. So if with the open image noiser, we can control space and then select, go to open image denoiser, OEID. So takes a couple of inputs. As you can see, the colors will wash out if I do that. This is because by default HDR is not enabled, and this should work on linear images. So enable HDR, because else it's gonna look very bad. I can, by the way, give you an example. If I probably go to, like, this is what it would look like if I don't enable HDR. If I go further into it, and then if I enable HDR, whoop, you can see also the highlights just washing out there. So that's why you want to stay linear. So it's already denoised a little bit by itself, but the results will be better if we also give it a normal pass and a diffuse. So it's gonna ask here for a albedo. So it's gonna be our diffuse, and it's gonna ask here for a normal. So this is our normal. So we plug that into our normal. And that's about it. It does a decent job of sort of denoising it. You can see it's not, I mean, of course, if you want like the perfect detail, you're gonna need to render it, but you can see it does a pretty decent job of sort of smoothing it out. And what you can actually do also is, for example, do this on specific passes. Like I could do this here on just my GI. Like let's say if I have my GI here and I think, okay, my GI is it's noisy, I could just plug it on my GI And then you can see it would really denoise my GI. And then I could boolean that in. And then that would already look a ton better than if I didn't do that. So it just depends on how you're gonna approach it. So I'm just walking you through through the steps here. So yeah, we have the thing denoise now. It's gonna make it a lot slower, so probably should disable it for now. But yeah, this already looks pretty cool. So maybe some stuff that I want to do is, I mean, it's not a super complicated composite that we're gonna be doing. Probably want to do maybe some color correction on the electricity. So let's go over there. So put some thing on there before we do that. Let's maybe already now check our depth of field, because that's going to add a lot to the look as well. So let's just apply our Frischluft. So we need our Z depth. Let's, by the way, rename our depth thing here by pressing F2, call it Z depth. And we're going to be using this for depth of field as well. So let's just copy this, put it here. And let's put it into brightness contrast and just make this a little bit more, take the contrast out a little bit. Guess we could make something like this. And down here you can check the values, by the way, so you can just make sure that it's like roughly somewhat 0 to 1. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that will just give good results if you do that. All right, let's type Frischluft depth of field, and again drag that into our view here. So, oh, by the way, what we probably want to do, we don't want to grab what I did here. We don't want to grab here the Z depths from our beauty. Perhaps what we want to do is we want to grab our electricity and grab the Z depth from there. Because then we're also going to have our Z depth from our electricity. So if there's any electricity here, you can see it's also going to be in the depth, which is going to give us nice depth of field when we do the blur. So let's plug that in second input. Let's plug it in. Then let's configure this. Click auto range. So then we'll do the auto black point. So the again, try to get that as close to 0 to 1 as you can before you do auto range. We need to press depth invert because it's an inverted depth map from Redshift by default. Like some depth maps will be like this one is black white, some will be white black. So it depends on your render engine. So we have it plugged in. Now what we can do is we can increase the radius and watch the magic happen. Whoa, beautiful. So the focus point is going to be this thing here. Let's just drag it onto our little box. Do it on there. So now we can focus with these things. We could focus on there, and it's going to be yeah. You can see it takes a while to cook, but so this is why you don't want to render depth of field all the time. I know in some of my courses I do render it, like Houdini 101. I did render it, but just with the seaweed it just didn't look good. But yeah, in this case I did want to do it. So we probably need to keyframe this a little bit. Because the box thing sort of moves around, right? So what we can do is just right click on our focal distance, press animate, and just let's step through our thing. We could do, by the way, we could probably check out we have a mat here somewhere, puzzle mat. Probably going to be easier to sort of focus on the thing if we have one of our passes. Yeah, okay, so with this thing you can see, I can see the blue thing, so I could move it to there. I'm just gonna, so it will auto key it if I have a keyframe set. Oh, I didn't have any keyframe set yet, I think, or do I? Okay, I do. So yeah, I'll just step through it. And then once it's there, then it should be on the right spot. So the depth here is probably a little bit extreme. Oh, and I see I didn't have my... Okay, I didn't have it selected, so that didn't do the keyframes. So let's actually do the keyframes this time. So like that. And probably this radius is way too much. So probably just gonna turn that down a little bit. Alright, so Fusion froze for 1 second, but I'm back. So yeah, we have the... I did turn the depth blur down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we have the depth of field. So essentially, most of the comp is there. Could probably tweak this a little bit. So probably what I want to do now is, before I do some, let's say that I'm happy with this comp already, what you would probably want to do is save out an intermediate result for this and then load it in, because then we're going to do some additional stuff like do some chromatic aberration, maybe add like some extra glow or something. We should probably, could probably change the, like add some, probably want to change the, I think I want to change the color on the fog. I want to probably boost, yeah, change the contrast, boost it up, right. Anyway, you can keep playing with that, but let's make a saver. So saver will save it out. It is not for final output. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this to $job. I'm gonna make an intermediate render here. So let's call it, I guess, intermediate, or just call it, I guess, render slash beauty slash v001. Slash beauty.exr. And does that work? Or not necessarily. Oh yeah, it doesn't have, sorry, it doesn't have the full things created. Just let's just say beauty here. It doesn't like if I put the extra folders in that thing. So let's just do it in here. Render slash beauty slash 001 and enable create folder. All right, I'm gonna just render this out. So you can just click render, and you would just render this out as a sort of, it's just going to be your intermediate thing, and then we're going to do some, and then we're going to load it back in and then continue compositing on that render. So just going to press render. So be right back.